welcome to your Miami Heat Beat post-game show. I am your hostess, not Giancarlo Navas. To my left, I have my dog, as always, the great Tiffanny Meeks. What's up, Tiff?
What's up, guys? Heat
How we feel?
win.
Heat,
Heat
mother,
win.
win. And to my right, Jackulus. It's always a fun time having Jack back around the building. Hi,
It's
Jack.
great to be here. It's better to be here on a win. It was looking bad for
Yeah.
a little bit.
Listen, I was getting it felt shaky, okay?
Hmm.
Super happy gifting us up for every incredible Leche game. Hey, bring them in then. Let's get them subs.
You're running out of
Yeah,
money.
super happy to be here after that second half. Might have had to call out after the first half, but that's why we play two halves of basketball, right?
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, guys, overall feels it was a bit of a roller coaster. Where have we leveled off at? How we feeling? Just in general. Tiff.
All right. I was feeling bad, then worse, then bad, then oh wow, this happening. Okay, so we held on. I felt pretty good. Um, no, I actually
Right.
the funniest thing is I feel pretty good about what I saw from certain individuals because that will carry over
Yeah.
hopefully to other individuals. So that's what I'm hoping.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Jack,
I
overall
think a
feelings.
lot of the same. Yeah, I mean, I think I agree. I think there was plenty of mess, in the first half, especially. Stuff they need to clean up, stuff that you can talk about like Bam going out and then kind of getting easy layups. That was happening with Bam in. They got to figure that
Right.
stuff out.
Yep.
That's going to be a problem going
Yep.
forward. But like
Right.
what Tiff was saying, like there are some individual performances in this game that are like truly kind of inspiring because they've followed a trend, because they bode well for everybody else on the team. And I don't know, we'll get into it, but there's a lot of strong stuff to pick apart in this game, even if it was kind of like uneven throughout.
Right.
I agree. So let's kind of get into the mess of the first half. Um, teams like this historically, I think, have given Miami a bit of an issue, right? Guys or teams with a speedy point guard at the head of their attack who also have, that pick and I call it kind of like the ability to take the top off of your defense being coming up against a drop and being able to kind of just stop and pull and give it to you from there. I think that creates such a wave of just action for an older Heat team, team that's not really trying to run for real, that wants to run opportunistically, or at least in the past. We have a few more athletes now, a little bit more youth, but from you all's individual perspective, I'm going to say dribble penetration. And is there anything with that you want to elaborate on with regards to kind of where did we struggle, or what was the first half of this basketball game with regards to kind of where we struggle? I guess defensively, if you feel like we had offensive struggles, toss me those too. But defensively, Tiff, where do you feel we lacked in what ways to begin the game?
It's interesting because it's not even to begin the game. The reality
Yes.
is it
Yeah.
was the whole game. We
Yeah.
just started scoring more.
Yep.
But nothing really changed that much on defense. But I'll just say, like you said, so our point of attack defense is non-existent. Um, our it was the soft part of our defense was not there.
Yeah.
So it was pretty much a layup line for the first 5 minutes. It was just, and the thing about it is, and I think I'd said this to you earlier, it was as if we didn't read the scouting report. They run on
Yep.
misses, they
And
run on makes.
yes.
So
Yeah.
they are, yeah. So it was like we just weren't prepared for like the ambush that was coming towards us. Um, we got caught ball watching a lot, which is weird because we usually don't do that as a team, but I also think we just weren't prepared for the pace. So we were trying to see
Yeah.
where the ball was the entire, like, first quarter. which once your head turns, you don't see your man. So you just
Yes.
really were opening up that baseline, and people were just coming in, just coming in, just coming in. Um, and I think that there was a part of Bam that was he's trying to keep Miles Turner off the boards, but at the same time trying to be a little bit more active because I saw him hedging a little bit, and it's like
Hmm.
you can't do both of that with this. This guy's what, I don't even know how tall he is, 7 feet,
Huge. He's
whatever.
large.
He's a
He's
good
large.
7.
So you need to stay attached to him, and everyone else is going to have to fend for themselves. But he sometimes gets so caught up in trying to help the helper,
Hmm.
which you could see it. He was just getting he got lost a lot. He literally, and he lost his man a lot because he was trying to help other people. Um, Jimmy can and I don't Jimmy was throwing the ball away too a lot.
Yeah. Yep.
So we had a lot of things going wrong. Just a lot
Yeah.
of things.
When you say the soft part of our defense, what do you mean?
So right there in between the basket and the free throw line, where it
Yeah.
usually
Yeah.
we got,
The belly.
because usually we're connected in that spot.
Hmm. Hmm.
Everybody's got their hands out, everybody's ready, everybody's moving. No one was there.
Hmm.
No one was there. No one was even sliding. No one was even trying to get there. It was we couldn't keep up. That's literally what it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah. Jack, what do you
I
think about our us to begin the game?
I mean, I'm wondering what y'all think about this part. Like, I think part of their defensive like gambit this year is that they have all these new wings, and they're just sending, and they have Bam, who's essentially defensively a wing a lot of the time. Like you're saying, Tiff, he wants to help the helper. He wants to like fly around to the perimeter and like
Mm-hmm.
defend a guard there and like fly back to help on Turner or whatever. He can't really get away with that all the time. And I think specifically when you see like two big teams with good passing,
Mm-hmm.
specifically two big teams where like
Yes.
the bigs can shoot and run baseline and cut and
Mm-hmm.
dunk, like then you just get so many oops from like Hallie or whatever. And then with the wings, it's just such a high risk gambit where they'll send J Rich sprinting into a passing lane, or Caleb
Yep.
sprinting into a passing lane, or even Jimmy, who has impeccable timing with it. You miss that, and then they're running. And with a team
Yep.
this fast, and with a team
Yeah.
with bigs like that, and with a team where it's like where your other big is often like Kevin Love or whatever,
Right.
Bam's kind of getting caught in the middle a lot, kind of like what you're saying, which is both
Mm-hmm.
preventable on his end, but also preventable on other people's ends. It's just like, I think the SPO defense traditionally is so reliant on timing and cohesion that when the timing is a bit off, everything looks disastrous. And like, there's
Mm-hmm.
not really like one guy who can make up for that unless Jimmy and Bam are just having like unreal nights. But like, I think that's what you saw in the first half. And I think in the second half, I don't think anything changed. I think they were able to punish us less. I think some of the timing was a little bit better at points, but like more than anything, we were just scoring to keep up with
Mm-hmm.
it. Like, I don't think anything changed significantly.
I like what you were saying about kind of our over aggression, some from our wings, but then that's how we've to start the season. That's how we've been able to kind of get out into some of the games where we have scored well. We've been forcing turnovers, and a lot of times, even there were times last season where it was, is our defense kind of really as stout as we believe it to be, or are we forcing a lot of turnovers out on the perimeter and then able to push and go from that? And I think, we're still dealing with there are times where we're not connected to on the interior,
Mm-hmm.
where we are gambling, Jack, and we're just kind of out, like I said, gambling for those things, and it's beating us sometimes. There was
Right.
a possession early on. Josh was like really high on either Obi or Hallie's hip, and they had just like a whole empty right side. It was Jaime's first foul, and we're just playing so high up, but they're quick enough and
Mm-hmm.
they're smart enough. They're going back door and things like that, and we force over rotation. Then we get our teammates in foul trouble, and I personally, kind of moving along a little bit along the lines of the defense and where I think it progressed a little bit, and I want both of you guys' opinion. Um, I think Kevin Love does a lot for our defensive rotations without being the quickest guy on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
He's an opportunistic hedger. He's an opportunistic
Yep.
show guy at the screen, and it's so opportunistic that it's surprising enough to where he does it. It kind of jostles the ball hand a little bit, but he's so um, he has such a concerted effort, kind of getting back to his. Miles wasn't shooting well, and so if he's able to kind of get out and show a little bit and sprint back to his, and our wings are pinched in just enough to where that role is a bit more difficult. They're starting making those lobs in the second half, and we have Caleb and Josh and even Kyle trying to kind of collapse on that, because Miles isn't a quick guy. And I think Kevin, just positionally, for me at least, he does a lot to stymie and kind of just clog driving lanes. And that was one of the small, because he didn't play a lot in the first, or at least it didn't
Right.
feel like he did. Um, they gave Orlando, a lot of run with Bam kind of going down. And I thought Kevin did a decent job to help sway some of their offensive momentum in the second half. What would you guys do you feel that way about Kevin? Would you say that there was something else a little unsung for either of you? I know Tiff, you said that you feel like we kind of just scored more, and I agree. But do you feel like there were any even slight defensive adjustments that we kind of capitalized off of in the second?
Um, well, I think like some of the things where we did calm down. Like that's one thing that like everybody seemed like they were in a rush. We didn't gamble as much in the second half.
Yeah,
The first half we were swiping at everything, trying to be in every passing lane, and we were missing all the balls. And
yeah,
then the second half, we didn't gamble as much. We stayed home a lot, which is what you need to do, especially with this type of team. And I agree. And I always say about Kevin, I think the one thing that's the most valuable to this team about him is his experience.
yeah.
He's seen all this.
All of it.
He's
Knows his
seen
own
all of it.
limitations. Knows it.
Exactly. So he's seen the defenses, he's seen the players, he's seen all these things, and he know right. So he knows his limitations, and he knows what to do, when to do, and how to do.
Yeah.
And I always say I hope that that rubs off on the other players. He knows how to play within himself, which sometimes it seems like we're so erratic that we just
Hmm.
don't know how.
Hmm.
Even though we have a team largely of vets, we're still so erratic throughout the game. But Kevin, um, he has a way of coming in, and he has a way of making a key play, a subtle play, or a quiet play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Jack.
Yeah, I think 100%. I think if we're looking specifically defensively, um, staying home is the big thing. I'd say he almost
Yeah.
has no choice because that
Right.
man's not jumping.
Right.
Like,
Right.
but I sometimes that's what you need. Like, and I think, and this is not meant as a shot at these other two bigs who I think were fine tonight, and I like them. Relative to Thomas Bryant and Orlando Robinson, I think when a big hits Kevin in the post, they feel
Yes.
it. Like,
Yes.
Yes.
even if he's not going to like give you a plus post defense, he stays home. He's not
Yep.
gonna foul. He's gonna get the rebound if he miss, and he's not getting pushed around. And if he does get
Mhm.
pushed around, he's usually gonna draw a foul, which is nice. Offensively, he was like playing point guard for a lot of possessions, but I think it's just a flow of like him stabilizing things. Like with his defense, it's always one of those things where it's like there are plenty of players in the league who are quote unquote not good on defense, but they're tremendous defensive rebounders and great outlet passers.
Yeah.
And because of that, their defensive value is
Yep.
tremendous because it translates
Yep.
immediately into quick offense.
Yep.
And Kevin Love has like been the exemplar of that since he's entered the league. And I
Mhm.
think as he's gotten older, he's only gotten like more savvy in terms of his placement on defense. And yeah, I think with a young team out there, a young, reckless team with a lot of messy um, players, it's really important to have a couple of guys who are just not going to make mistakes, even if they're not going to make like a tremendous play.
I agree. I agree fully. So okay, so for me, I the defense is a lot of like what kind of drives my heart. Um, Offensively though, the second half for me came in like personnel waves. Like there was one guy, and then there was another guy, and then there was another guy, and then there was another, and it it flowed off of one another so well. But sticking with the first, Jack, I'll start with you. How did you feel about our offensive processes in the first? Did you feel like we were getting did there feel like a market difference between the looks that we were getting in the first and the looks that we were getting in the second half? And, if so, kind of what were those, or just, how did you feel about the way that we were trying to get into what we were trying to do offensively in the first half? For me, it felt like very unsettled. It didn't feel like we had any type of kind of discernible identity or like objective with kind of what we were doing other than trying to match Indiana's pace. And you're not going to do that.
Yeah, I mean, we had talked about that really briefly before going
Mm-hmm.
live, that I think in the first half they're 100% trying to keep up with the Pacers. They're not playing their game. I think, like, I don't want to like take shots at Bam because I don't think he was particularly horrible or like
Yeah.
bad. And I think overall there's a lot of things that he did that are indicative of his growth. Like he started off like what, like 1 for 7, 2 for 7,
Yeah.
and then he put his shoulder down and got an and one. But then he went back to the fadeaway like almost immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there was just some things where I think if he had stayed healthy the whole game, the Bam this year finds a way to turn that around and
Yeah.
get some easy looks and like just get into his game. It's just like I think he was figuring out the Miles Turner matchup, and that's why some things started slow. I think overall Jimmy was pretty disastrous, I would say, until like a point. Like he had like 10 in the first, but like I would say he was all
Yeah.
over the place in
Yeah.
that first half, and he really cleaned. Obviously, this is one of his better games of the season. Um, and then, yeah, I think in the second half things just simplified for them. I think the biggest thing that I saw in the second half was there was a play where Jimmy draws probably 3 straight like loose ball fouls and
Mm-hmm.
fouls out 2 Pacers.
Yep.
And then
Mm-hmm.
the third one, it's literally just Kevin at the top of the wing
Yep.
and then
Yeah.
trying to get Jimmy on a cut. It's the exact same play every time they inbound it. And then
Yep.
Jimmy ends up getting the open layup. It's
Yep.
the exact same play. And it was just simple stuff like that. Was Jaime or Jimmy, simple action. Like
Yeah.
Right.
I think it got really simple, and that
Right.
reduced a lot of like messiness or like confusion that they may have had in the
Right.
first half.
Tiff.
No, I agree because that was my whole thought process of the first half, trying to do too much. It's like you it's like you're not going to run with these kids. Like no one in the league is literally running at this pace every game all night.
Yeah.
So it's like you got to pick your spots, when to run, when not to run, when to settle into the offense, when to run a play. And yeah, I agree with Jack that the simple offense is what worked for them.
Mm-hmm.
How often do we talk on here about somebody please just cut to the basket
Oh, girl. Can't
and
wait
just get
till
your
we get
hand
there,
up while you're doing it?
child.
The junior high things, cut, make yourself available, and
Lead
that's it.
hand, target hand,
Yes. Yeah.
good ball placement.
Right. We talked about that so often, and tonight was the night where they there were moments where it does become annoying when Caleb and Josh are in the same space.
Yes.
Like one of you got to cut away, get somewhere else. But once they kind of cleaned it up a little bit, the passes were on point. because Jaime he's a big target. He makes himself big,
Yeah.
which, we can say there's a lot of big players in the league, but they don't play big.
Right.
He makes himself big when he cuts to the basket. And he's cutting with intention. He's not cutting to get the pass and pass it back out. He's cutting to score. And that's the simplified offense that we could have started with and ran with, but we kind of had to fumble our way into, I
Mm-hmm.
guess. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. For me, so coming in, so transitioning to the second half, like I said, for me, it went kind of person by person by person who was the kind of central engine of everything that we were doing offensively, and then uh, the other guys filled in and started doing more of the things that or that at least that I kind of expect them to do, namely the Joshes and the Calebs, right? So second half
Right.
for me, Kyle gets them off to a good start. Kyle gets them off those 2 threes, and then his little proby dribble, that
Mm-hmm.
little turnaround he got in the middle of the lane, and he got that paint bucket. Kyle gives you 8, right? And then Jimmy gives you a Jimmy Butler quarter, kind of for the ages. And we even got like the iconic Jimmy, I'm
Mm-hmm.
fucking tired, hands on my knees, bent over type of thing. And then you got the Jaime action, and it's I'm gonna just lay out the outline of the guys for me, and then we can get into a little bit deeper and what Jaime allows them to do um, with regards to his game and how it mirrors Jimmy's game, and then again the Joshes and kind of the Caleb's. Starting with Kyle, you guys, we were talking about, trying to match Indiana's pace. They're frenetic, they're chaotic, they're doing, all of this just really fast types of things. And especially when you're not a group that's used to playing fast like that, you trying to match that just feels like if Indiana is controlled chaos, you just feel kind of chaotic,
Right.
just flatly chaotic. And I thought Kyle did a really good job of settling them to begin the third and being able to be effective with his skill and with his body and with his mind rather than trying to, run with these kids. Tiff, how did you feel that spurt to start the third from Kyle? How did you feel that kind of set them up to kind of go into the rest of the half? And then just what exactly did you see from Kyle in those moments?
Um, I think it's that, it's the moment where he knows somebody has to. It's time for somebody to grab the game.
Yes, that's a great way to put it.
Um, and he doesn't. And it's funny because he doesn't do it loudly.
Yeah.
It's very methodical. You can
Mm-hmm.
see him looking. You can see him probing. Him getting to where he needs to get to. Um, and it's not showy.
Yeah.
And it always happens in bunches. It's very quick, and it happens, and it puts you right where you need to be in the game. He has this tendency of sometimes floating, and then all of a sudden it's like boom, 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 boom in succession. Exactly.
Yeah.
He blows up and he puts you right where you need to be in the game. And I think um, that might have been the catalyst that Jimmy needed, because that also, I don't think we ever think about the fact that, like, him going off for the quick 8 points, that also gave Jimmy the opportunity to rest on offense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um, because that's when Jimmy started to get in the post. He started to do a little bit more work inside, and it kind of saved him his legs for a little bit, saved him from getting a couple of beatings down low. Um, and it kind of, and maybe also mentally, it took a little pressure off of him. You know,
Yep.
I think, but I think Kyle, for what it's worth, and he may not be what everybody wants him to be or have been what we need him to be, but as of now,
Yes.
he's giving them all the things that they need to keep them in some sort of consistency when it comes to offense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jay.
Yeah, I mean, he's a floor raiser. Like when
Yep.
in like the truest of senses, when like everything
Yeah.
is falling through the floor. Like
Literally.
like you're in
Literally.
the basement, he's lifting you up, he's taking you out of it. 15 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 6 of 10 shooting, 3 for 6 from three. That's in a
Yeah.
game
Yep.
where he essentially did not play uh, almost all of the second half because of foul trouble and because they were just rolling by the time it was reasonable to put him in. So, like, they're just frankly not in that game if he doesn't get, kind of some of those buckets, that like little
Mm-hmm.
8 point run that he has. Um, the more subtle stuff that, like, when he's not hitting shots like this, he's just doing every game is like you were saying, Tiff, like, I think there are a lot of players on this team specifically, and like most of the players in the NBA, they get the ball and they're handling it on the run. And it kind of looks like they might have like a 3-on-1 or a 3-on-2 advantage. And I think Kyle's pretty good about being a little conservative on stuff like that
Hmm.
sometimes and
Mm-hmm.
being like, let
Yep.
me pull back. Let's just set
Hmm.
the
Yep.
offense. This is
Yep.
probably a
Yep.
turnover because I don't
Yep.
have
Or a
Blake
block.
Griffin to throw it to right
Or a
now.
block.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's or a block. I mean, often a block. Like, I think that's like a thing most players aren't willing to do. And I think he's just so good at like coming to those stops, putting his body in somebody, and like looking at the 3 point line. And when you
Mm-hmm.
got guys like running onto, like, you have, like, let's say Caleb Martin running baseline on one of those like runs, and then you have Duncan running onto the wing, like stopping, not looking at Caleb, and then like maybe Duncan's coming up and like has a trailer three coming for you. That's the better shot, like
Yeah.
almost always. No
Yep.
offense to Caleb. It's just like,
Right.
I don't think he's necessarily that kind of finisher all of the time. And it takes somebody with years and years of experience, one of the best point guards of the 21st century. I know G's watching, so I'm just trying to praise him. Like, legitimately a Hall of Famer, and like one of the, like, raises the collective intelligence of this team tenfold.
Yep.
Um, on both ends. Like, it's nice when he's doing stuff like this, but I think this year, I'm not on Twitter, so like I don't know. I hope people are kind of realizing that even when he's not giving you these stat lines, that he's giving you this. Like,
Let me tell you,
this
they
is
are
what he's
not.
giving him every game.
They are not.
Yeah, I
And that's
guess.
and that's been kind of frustrating, and we can the contract and the last couple, like, everything aside, if you're looking at this season in a vacuum, there's no way that you can objectively say that Kyle hasn't been one of the most solid, most consistent,
Mm-hmm.
and most, just reliable pieces for this team. The speed is going to be what it is. What he's able or what he's lost physically from a defensive standpoint, he still has between the ears. And very much like a Kevin Love, is positionally a lot of times in the right spot, especially on his like helping defense types of things. But I personally, I've been super happy with Kyle, and I think the golf, if there is one, is still how do we get, you know not assertive or not aggressive Kyle, but assertive Kyle, even when, Bam is here. And, we know that he wants to get Bam going so much. And I think if Kyle can continue to, keep the pulse of the game, keep his hand on the pulse of the game and give us those, the five 5 point burst, the little 8 point burst, and just, kind of just keep injecting Kyle esque types of life into the game. He's I think he's been more than solid for the group this year. I want everyone to kind of relax and just be appreciative of him in the
Right.
moment, aside of, everything that is kind of happened. Boom, right? So Kyle gets a started in the third, and then Tiff,
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy's had those 8 points worth of rest. He has a sense of what's happening in the game now, and then Jimmy just gives us a Captain Save a Ho classic Jimmy Butler, it's my time type
Right.
of performance. Talk about 22 in the third, Tiff.
He just has a knack for getting to that damn line when he needs to.
Man, it
That
would piss me off if I were an opposing defender.
because there's not a flop to be seen.
Not nary a one.
he and we could be honest. Part of that's because he has such great body control.
Most of it.
So that's a big deal.
Yeah.
But the best thing he did was get to the line because one, it allowed them to rest.
Yeah.
Two, it slows the game down.
Yep.
Three, he's gonna make the free throws, so you get to put points on the board.
Tiffy shot, I think, 16 free throws for the game. He had like that third quarter. He
Yeah,
shot, I think, 11 free throws in the quarter.
yeah, yeah. So doing all those things, he just allowed them to keep creeping and keep creeping and keep creeping,
Yep.
and they were able to score without having to run up and down, which is what they needed. But he's just one of those guys where if it's regular season, he's just playing along, and all of a sudden you look up and he's already at 25, 4 and 3.
And it
I don't
pisses me off.
remember. I don't remember when the hell he got to 20.
Nope.
And what did he finish with? Almost 30.
Well, he had like 34, I think, right?
36.
36.
See,
36.
Jack, I'm telling you, I don't even remember how he got to 36.
Yeah.
No.
So it's one of those games where
It's like you take those 16 free throws away. Where the hell was 20 other points?
exactly. I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't recall it. But I love the nights like this because he wasn't I can't sit here and be like, "Oh, he's forcing it. He's forcing it. He's forcing it." He was playing within himself and within the game.
Yeah.
So you just got to tip your hat to a guy like that who's still on a bad ankle because those ankles are done. We know that. Like we have to be realistic about where his body is. And he went out there and he just kind of kept pushing and kept pushing. And I think the thing is that I saw him in the ear of all the players.
Yes. Yes.
Every single guy at some point, Jimmy was pulling them over and pointing somewhere on the floor.
Yeah.
Every single guy. So I think as much as what he did on offense and defense, I think those little things those are the catalysts for those younger players who don't have the Kevin Love experience, the Kyle Lowry experience. Like that's the catalyst for them.
Yeah. And he's, been that engaged since he's been out, right? You see him on the bench, mic'd up, Josh, back up, no, get in here. No, all of those different things, keeping young guys engaged and then keeping himself engaged. I think that's what you really want to see, like him tapped into what the game needs, even when he's not out there with them. Jack, I think you've said a few times that, and correct me if I'm wrong, for this team to kind of get where it wants to be, there has to be a moment where where Bam is the definitive, kind of best player on this team. And nights where Bam is present, and especially when nights where Bam is not present, what is it about the rest of this group and how it functions with Jimmy doing what he does that, Kyle is your floor raiser. What is it about Jimmy that kind of gets you to the ceiling? Like if the ceiling is there and it kind of feels unattainable, like he's going to be the guy that gets you there. Yes, will and grit and all of that, but kind of just talk about him in the third and these moments that we've seen now over these last 4 years of just like Jimmy dominance in a 12-minute span.
Yeah. I'll say I've definitely, I think, said that consistently, and I believe that mostly because of the regular season is long and Jimmy doesn't want to do this every game. And so it's purely a matter of like, Bam, you're the young guy. You've got to like carry things night in and night out. Yep. Obviously, Jimmy can do this kind of on whatever night he really wants to. And it's a couple of things. Like, I think there's an energy that comes in, like a relief when he's on the floor for the rest of the players that like, it's just a gravitational pull on offense that like is unique because he's not a shooter, but because he's such an asshole and he's got such tremendous body control that like I don't know how I was kind of getting pissed off. I'm not a Pacers fan. I wanted them to lose. I'll be clear about that. I was kind of getting pissed off for like the Aaron Nemards and like all of
Yes.
those like random Pacers players. Because I'm like, well, it's not like it's not a foul, but it's not like a Harden thing where it's like, that's a soft touch, today's NBA, blah, blah, blah. No, it's like he is throwing himself at you, and he's like, if you don't foul him, he is going to score. So it's not like even a Dwayne Wade thing, or Dwayne Wade could do this also. It's not like a lot of players where they'll like throw up a shot because it's technically a shot attempt. He will make those stupid looking shot attempts at a high rate if you don't foul him hard. And he was making them. Like you asked, like, I don't remember when he was scoring those points. It was like G says in the chat, it was off Kevin Love high-low passes.
Yes.
Like 9 times out of 10, or it was like just hard and ones. So like when he was scoring, he's going to the line. And when you're playing against a guy like Halliburton, who's like counting by 3, and we have a bunch of streaky shooters alongside like a Duncan, you got to count by 3 another way, and it is exhausting to watch. It's incredible though. Like I don't remember him making a single jumper, like not even like a midi. Like it was a bunch of garbage at the rim. Like I'm sure he made one 36 points and not a single jumper, but like it was all dirty stuff. And like I think he doesn't even have to be touching the ball that much for him to have that effect, because you saw how Indiana was just trying to regain the lead by heavily trapping at the end, like sending doubles at everybody. Like when Jimmy first came back in, I was like, okay, they're going to go away from Jaime. They immediately go to Jaime again, and they're benefiting from, and we'll get into him, but like they're benefiting from just like the fact that Jimmy's around, because there are 3 Pacers on him at all times. And it's maybe Steph and a couple other players have that level of gravity wherever they are on the court.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And just he doesn't. You feel for as much of an asshole as he is, and all of these things, you feel. I feel like as a teammate, you feel safe with him around. He's gonna push you. He's going to, going to hold things accountable, but he's going to give you everything that he has for the most part when he's on the floor, and it forces you to bring that same thing. And I just the third from him tonight, I just think was a quintessential Jimmy Butler like moment in this span of his time with Miami. Boom, right? So Kyle started the third off. Jimmy came in, gave it to you. We're going to end with Triple J, but before we get there, Caleb and Josh. I think that there are reasonable gripes, if you want to call them that, about their on ball usage, and the fact that we do need, another point guard, or someone who can set a table and pick apart a defense from the top of the key and orchestrate an offense in that way. I think, along with the simplicity of the offense that we got to in the second half, a lot of that, Tiff, was the cutting, right? You're not okay, so you have Jimmy in the post or whatever. You have Kyle that's managed to penetrate himself down there. So now your defense, their attention is shifted. And we have such capable passers that if we're getting those 45-degree angle cuts, all those baseline cuts, it just helps you, just erode even further an already, soft defense. And I thought tonight was, another good showing of Josh movement, Caleb movement, Jimmy movement off the ball, Triple J movement off the ball, but specifically kind of Josh and Caleb and their feel for when to cut, and how that aided the steadying of the offense in the second half. Tip.
Right. First of all, let me say sorry. My nose is acting just like the Pacers.
They're for running.
Running. Running. I think like this is it for them, because we've already established they are streaky shooters.
Yeah.
Like this is it for them. Like this is what they should have been doing. This is what they should be doing.
I think so.
they shouldn't have the ball as much as they do on
I
the
don't think
baseline, dribbling, probing, if you will.
they
Like
don't
I
even probe. They're too chaotic. Their probe is so it stresses me out.
right, but they're athletic enough to
Yes.
catch that ball and finish. Exactly, especially Caleb with the
Yes.
way he finishes on his layups. But those are the things, and those are the things that kept the defense a little bit off kilter.
Yep.
Because, like Jack said, we've got how many eyes on Jimmy, and as soon as you turn, now all of a sudden you got Caleb cutting across the middle. You've got Josh cutting
Yep.
across the middle. Josh hit a couple of big shots tonight too.
Yes. Yeah.
But these are the things that you need from them because we, we wouldn't be realistic if we really thought this is the way they're going to look all year. At some point, you're going to have everybody back. So the minutes aren't as much, the shots aren't as much,
Yeah.
but the activity can be the activity.
Every time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jack, anything from the slashers tonight, or just do you feel like they are rounding more into the ways that maybe you'd like to see them use, or maybe not, or just the way where it is that they should operate on the floor? How did you see that play into the steadying of the second half offense tonight?
I'll say I think I have completely different opinions on both of them. I think not than y'all, but like on them. I think Caleb, pure wild card right now.
Mm-hmm.
You have no clue what he's going to give you on any given possession. There used to be this player on Indiana who played with Thomas Bryant named Troy Williams, super athletic. Anytime he had the ball, it's going to be a turnover or a highlight reel play. And that's how I feel about Caleb, kind of.
Nothing in
Not
between.
that like
Right.
drastic,
Right.
but like
Right.
he's figuring stuff out, and
Yeah.
also that's just kind of who he is to an extent.
Right.
And I think that's good when it's
Mm-hmm.
good. Like um Josh I've really liked. Josh
Yeah.
I think had to me the ideal Josh Richardson game. I don't think he hit neither of them hit a three
Right.
tonight. Josh went like 8 for 11. I think Bond, this is something I understand is like you've always said about Duncan, kind of when he was going through his slumps, take a couple dribbles in, get that midi going. And I think Josh is like a guy who's always had that since like his first stint with the Heat. Like if he
Mm-hmm.
can dribble into like 15 feet, I trust that jump shot like so much. He had a couple like turnarounds that looked really nice. I think the thing with Josh that has always been the criticism, especially earlier this year, is that sometimes he plays a little out of control. And I
Mm-hmm.
think the criticism dating back to his first stint with the Heat was that like they were asking him to do things that he is just functionally as a player not capable of, specifically in terms of like creation. Spo loves to turn a 2 guard into a 1, and a lot of the times it turns out like Josh Richardson. That guy is the most 2 guard in the history of 2 guards, and like I like that. Like,
Yes.
but
Everything
I think
doesn't
this
have to
is
be a
what we've
combo
seen.
guard.
Exactly. And now that they have, and we'll move like into JJJ, like they have guys like that who can kind of like carry the bench unit a little bit. They have Kyle who's playing well. Like Josh has been so controlled. I think Tiffy said he hit a couple of big shots. He did. But I also think he hit a lot of like little shots when they weren't even really in the game. Like just kind of steadying shots, and that's what you want from him. If Caleb's going to be a wild card, even though Josh is a streaky shooter, you would like him to kind of be, he's like 30 now. He's got to be kind of a veteran presence. He's got to defend without fouling. I think his defense has been tremendous relative to earlier in the season when I think it was all over the place. Tremendous relative to what I think of Josh, who is not a great defender. I think he's been less mistake prone, and I think he's buying into the defensive scheme, which is like hands everywhere. And I think he's done that well without doing stuff where you're like, he is destroying this possession with a stupid foul or like a stupid gamble. Tremendous is a stretch for sure, but like relative to my expectations of him.
Cool. No, it's fine. He's definitely an active defender. I just for all point of attack guys, I'm such a where what are your feet doing type of person. Goatee Duncan is different, bro. Yeah, certainly he is. Shout out to Duncan. I think the one thing that I want for Josh is to just clean up his feet, and I wanted that from Haywood tonight too. Haywood didn't have a great on ball game, by any stretch. But I agree with you. I think that Josh is rounding into what I feel like is the most ideal way of using him kind of with this group. And it does help moving right along when you have a Jimmy and a guy like a Triple J. Triple J for me, I think it's such a luxury to be able to sit Jimmy and then bring back a guy who has so much of those exact same types of actions and movements. When Jimmy is when we have our criticisms about Jimmy, it's him being despondent, it's him being disconnected and kind of just stuck in the corner, whatever. High usage Jimmy games aren't a lot of him dribbling at the top. It's a lot of mid post, extended post, post ups, and surveying, picking apart from there, or working his matchup in a way that kind of only he can with regards to the body control, the fundamentals, and stuff like that. And they get good things off of Jimmy actions, right? If he doesn't have it himself, he's pressing closer into the basket, drawing more attention. Now you have those cutting lanes for those other guys. Jimmy gives you what Jimmy gives you in the third. Jimmy goes to sit as he does to start the fourth. You bring in who JJ Redick is called, the third best rookie of this NBA season. And I don't watch enough Sora Thompson to know. I don't watch enough Derek Lively to know whether or not that is true. But from what I have seen, Jame's maturity and his composure have done so much for this group. I've said it in the chat the other day, Tiff. Like it's incredible how important he is to them already. But it's because of how he plays. It's the style of game that he has. So you can sit Jimmy, who gives you the high usage things that open up things for other people, and then you're able to bring back this young guy who has so much of that. And I just thought the run that he went on kind of in the fourth alongside with the rest of the bench. I think Caleb was in there with him. I think Josh was in there with him. And maybe like Kevin Love, and I forget who else. Just
Jimmy.
the fearlessness. I'm talking before Jimmy came back.
Oh,
I
okay.
think he played like the whole third. He was bent over and they sat him. But just the fearlessness that he plays with, the composure, the body control, I think it's just such a luxury to have that same, bag in another guy. And you feel comfortable getting Jimmy rest. And Jimmy
Right.
feels comfortable putting the ball in his hands. And I feel like we talk about him every post game, but there just feels like there is always something to talk about with him, Tiff.
Yeah, I think the thing about this team is we are flushed with wings,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
but we are flushed with wings that they're all lacking that one thing that this team still needs is more shooting,
Mm-hmm.
like more pure shooting. So
Okay.
to have
Mm-hmm.
because Tyler's out, Bam is in and out because of the hip. So to be able to look past Jimmy and to say, okay, this kid's a rookie, but he can go out and give us 20 if we need it. Like that's the one thing you can say. And it's still early in the season, but if you're looking at the numbers, he's showing us he can consistently put up 15 to 20
15.
if the
Yep.
if the opportunity is given.
Yeah.
Um and he does it, yes, a la Jimmy, and different than Josh, Caleb,
Mm-hmm.
and anybody else is scoring.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because his level of physicality is so much more than theirs that he
Yes.
can get in there and he thrives in the post. It's almost as if he knows I got this. Give it to
Yep.
me, I can do it. He thrives in that short range area where he either is going to shoot it, he'll give you an up and under, or what I love about him more than all of that, he makes the right pass.
Yeah.
Like that to me is way more important than all the other things because I feel like he knows he can score in this league, but that passing, you got to be willing to do
Yeah.
that. And that's the
Mm-hmm.
thing that I really like about him.
Mm-hmm. Jack, the luxury that is everything that we get in Jaime's skill set and just that package.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of that. I think he's tremendously smart. Um, it's it. I think we can talk about how he has been. I think tonight was a specifically unique night
Mm-hmm.
for his development and like
Yeah.
kind of signposts what we might see in the future from him because I just don't
Mm-hmm.
think he's been asked to do this as much before. But I think midway through the fourth or something, Eric Reed had mentioned that um, this was his second 10-point fourth quarter and probably like his fifth or fourth full fourth quarter that he had
Yep.
played. I think maybe if people aren't Heat fans, they don't realize how absurd that is. Like, even given like Tyler Hero or Bam, like there have
Yep.
been some rookies that Spo has trusted tremendously and some really standout rookies. None that even measure up to um, how much they trust Jaime, which is
Mm-hmm.
weird because I would say this is a better team than Bam's rookie year team, and probably I it I'm not going to compare it to Tyler Hero's rookie year, but
Yep.
like they're relying on him in like more heavy spots, like in the fourth quarter to close games, to handle the ball, to create in the post, like to do a bunch of different things, to like guard the like key defensive matchups. I think we've compared him to Jimmy in the past, and like I think those comparisons have always been like super apt, like more so than most player comparisons ever are.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think this is a game where we kind of saw him shift into that like Jimmy mentality as much as he
Yeah.
can as a rookie. Like he's always so tremendously smart and always looking for the pass, and he's always so good at making the right basketball play. This was a game where there was truly a stretch where he had a
Yep.
couple of post ups or something like that, where he's like, no, I'm going to score this one. I know
Mm-hmm.
I can do it. I know I
Mm-hmm.
can beat my man. I know like Buddy Hield is guarding me, like Neesmith is guarding me. Those aren't like world beater defenders, but those aren't scrubs either.
Yeah.
Like you're beating your man there, and he's doing it in multiple ways. Like he's getting by guys, he's backing them down. He had like several just cuts at the end of broken possessions where like
Mm-hmm.
he is making strong finishes through contact. And I
Mm-hmm.
guess if you're thinking long term there, like if he's able to do that mentally, if he's able to do all of that physically with the speed and the strength, and he's able to do all of that with his skill, with his footwork, with his just touch around the rim, with his passing ability, which is like not only like mentally proficient, but like
Yeah.
physically proficient. He is
Yep.
making strong cross court passes that
Yep.
like some players just physically can't make.
That pass out
Then
of
I
the
just
double.
asked
Yeah, they had him doubled
exactly.
up the top, and
Yeah.
he got it to the corner. It's one swell, one motion.
And it looks good, it looks crisp, and he's hitting guys in rhythm, and he does it consistently. And that's when I ask, and like not to make this like a larger point about Triple J, is just take away the age thing for a second. What is the thing about him that is not high potential? Like when people say he's a high floor guy and then imply that he doesn't have a high ceiling, I just don't see, other than the age, which is not a reliable predictor of potential, what he doesn't have in terms of potential. Because I think there was a stretch late in the third where he looked really good and he was
Mm-hmm.
missing some shots that were not like a skill or ability thing. It was
Mm-hmm.
just like next year he makes that because he's 1% stronger and 1% better at the rim. Um, it's just stuff like that. Is as much as he has games like this where he's scoring 24 points and he's leading the team to a win, you also see 10 or so plays every night, even in these super efficient games where you're like, that's a
Yep.
clear area of improvement. And I know like he can get there. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm really high on him and I'm trying to kind of temper those expectations, but he's been good.
Yeah. I think he's been super good. We talk about the jumper and like, once that, and I'm someone who the jumper's been coming along. Like from the corner, he had an action with Caleb where they kind of were just in and out of the paint, but they hadn't really shooken anything loose. And he just kind of had like a reorbiting around Caleb, pop to the very top of the key, highest point on the floor, shoot a three, and one smooth motion, knock it down, and those things. And like you said, I don't understand where there's drawback about kind of what he could be. I just think people, I've thought this for a long time now, people just don't value the right types of things or just really, really don't understand what it is that they're watching. Like Jimmy grew into this polished of an offensive player. Jimmy didn't have this to start out. I'd say Jaime is more progressed offensively than Jimmy was when he kind of came in and to see, but people still don't give Jimmy his, I think the type of respect. I think Jimmy gets talked about in a way, but I don't think that people really appreciate or honor, kind of all that goes into a game kind of like his. But I think Ame is there and a little bit further along offensively than even 22 was coming in. So, I don't understand these caps that people are putting kind of on his potential, or the scouts that were like, he won't be an all-star, he won't average 20 for you. And I don't understand what people are watching when they kind of say these things. But that's us, we're Heat fans. But I think we're objective and we're honest and we understand. At least I know the three of us do. Kind of what it is that we're watching out here on the floor. Tiff, you got anything closing for Triple J or just this game in general? I know this pod went long, you guys. I thought this was a really kind of fun game from a multitude of standpoints. And we'll go ahead and get out of here. Tiff, you got anything to close for the people? Are you muted? Can I not? Are you saying words?
Oh, I
Oh,
was
I
muted.
thought she was
Oh,
giving a dramatic pause.
hold on. I was like,
I
whoa.
was
I
muted. I was
don't
muted. I was
know
muted.
that I see her mouth moving.
Um, no, I'm just thinking. We play them again, right? That's the next game.
Is
Is
it
that right?
okay?
I
I'm
think
not.
it is in Indiana. I
Oh
think
yeah.
that's the next
Yep.
game. Um, I'm curious to see how we adjust to that game, how he adjusts to that game.
Hmm.
Now that he's been in that type of environment, the up and down and all these different things, I'm curious to see what's next.
Yep.
Because every game for him is it's like growth. You see something different every game. You see the add-on, so
Hmm.
you're starting to see um, the house being built brick
Yep.
by brick with him game by game. So I'm just curious to see once he's in that environment again, because they're going to be up and down, but they're going to be in Indiana. I
Yeah.
want to see
No,
how
they're
he
here.
takes.
They're back at Miami on
Oh,
Saturday.
they are
Hmm.
okay. All right. So hey,
Yeah.
all right. But yeah, I just think every game for him is part of his growth, and I like that the Heat are putting him out there and letting him get his warts because
Yep.
everything hasn't been pretty,
Yep.
but they're also letting him get his roses.
Yep. I agree 1,000,000%. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. We're going to go ahead and wrap up and get up out of here. Again, sorry, audience, I kept you guys a bit longer. Sorry to my co host here. I thought today was a fun game, given the way that it started, the way that it ended. And last thing, we could have let that shit get all the way away in the fourth. We let it slip some. There was room enough, though, for us to like have this whole comeback thing and then just let go of the road completely. I think wins like this are important for this group.
Yep.
And, let's just again see what we look like on Saturday. Appreciate you, Carlos. Um, yeah, man, I feel good. Hope Bam is back. Hope Bam is, feeling better, able to kind of get back out here. And I'm excited to see what we look like on Saturday. Uh, Jack, you aren't on Twitter. Is there any way that the people could find you and just talk to your gorgeous face?
um, no, if I want to talk to y'all, I'll find you.
I love that. Don't look for me. I'll come to
Right.
you if I
yeah.
want
I'll
to talk
call.
to
I'll come for you.
you. Don't send for me. My people will call your
Right.
people. Tiff, talk to the people about
Yes.
mixed bag and where you be at.
Oh, if you're not watching Mixed Bag, tune in, look at our YouTube channel, find
Yep,
us on Apple, Spotify.
yep.
I have no idea where y'all young kids get y'all music from, y'all apps from, y'all any of that. Like, not gonna lie, I don't have Spotify, I don't have none of that, but y'all might have it. So I'm there. I don't know what a Spotify rap is, nor do I care, G. But that's where I'm at. I'm also on Twitter. Listen, that's just how I be rolling.
I love it.
I
That's my
ride in the
dog.
music. I ride in the car with no music. I don't care.
Same. Sometimes you don't need
So
like just let me drive.
look
I
for
just
me on Twitter. At some point, I'll be there. Not gonna lie, might be hyping up Max Struess. I'm not saying,
okay,
having a great year. That's all I'm
okay.
saying.
Talk about my
Donovan
nephew.
Mitchell ain't passing the ball enough. That's all I gotta say. I think everybody know what's going on over there in Cleveland, but I ain't the one to gossip, so you ain't hear that from me.
You ain't hear it
But
from my girl, okay?
but but follow your girl if you want heat, if you want Max Struess, if you want sometimes things that ain't none of your business, but I make it your business. That's it.
Graciously.
Struess look good in that Cavs uniform. Don't come on here with that.
He do and I don't like it.
He looks
He
good
just
in that wine. He
he's
looks good
cute
in
in
that
the
wine.
wine. He is.
Wind down,
I
wind
get it.
down,
Oh, I
wind
like
down.
it.
Pablo, take us out before I do something I ain't supposed to do.